You open your eyes to the soft, silver-gray glow of dawn, long before humans knew the shape of the world. The horizon is quiet, not yet alive with sound or color. The first touch of sunlight brushes across a still, watery surface, a touch so delicate it seems almost imagined. Each photon carries with it a whisper of the sun's heart, a pulse of energy traveling across unimaginable distances to reach this ancient ocean. You feel the warmth as more than heat, it is a stirring, a gentle coaxing of matter into motion. You are present as if you could hear the universe breathe. The water shimmers faintly under this tender illumination. Tiny molecules drift lazily, colliding with a soft hum that is imperceptible but omnipresent. You sense the rhythm, the subtle dance that has no name, yet carries within it the story of everything yet to come. Light, in its patient persistence, begins to energize these small, restless molecules. It nudges them toward combinations they might not have dared alone. In these small unions, there is a spark, not of fire, but of potential, the first promise of what could be called life. Time feels different here. It stretches and folds in ways your mind can scarcely track. One moment is a flicker of brightness, the next, a slow, unfolding spiral of chemical possibility. You watch as the sunlight penetrates deeper, diffusing into the water, touching corners unseen. It is as if each photon seeks out a tiny fragment of matter, offering it warmth, energy, and a question, what might you become? The molecules respond in the most subtle of gestures. Some cling together, hesitant and trembling, others tumble apart, only to meet again. Each encounter is a quiet rehearsal of creation, a choreography so gentle you could almost mistake it for nothing at all. Beneath your awareness, you notice patterns emerging. Some molecules begin forming rings, others stretch into chains. They are simple, unremarkable to a casual glance, but here, bathed in the morning light, they are extraordinary. You feel yourself leaning closer, wanting to witness their first tentative experiments in complexity. The photons continue to flow, indifferent to your presence, yet somehow perfectly aligned with the possibilities they awaken. There is a hum of energy, a soft pulse that seems to resonate with your own heartbeat. It is the pulse of life before life knew itself, a quiet promise whispered in light. You imagine the world in its early solitude. No wind disturbs the water, no rain interrupts the surface. Mountains, rivers, and oceans are only beginning to shape themselves under the patient gravity of time. And yet, within this stillness, a restless potential exists, guided by forces unseen and unspeaking. You see the first chemical reactions, small bursts of color and movement that hint at something larger. You almost want to reach out and touch them, to feel the spark for yourself. But you remain a quiet witness, knowing that this is a story to be watched, not altered. The light grows warmer now, brushing the water with gentle persistence. It nudges, encourages, and sometimes surprises. Molecules, once drifting aimlessly, begin to settle into patterns that repeat. You see chains of amino acids begin to form, folding and twisting like dancers rehearsing for an unseen performance. Each photon adds to the subtle rhythm, its energy a quiet hand guiding the possibilities. You realize that light is not only an illuminator, it is a messenger, a midwife, coaxing life from the potential hidden within simple matter. You lean back, letting your mind float with the slow pulse of dawn. You sense the quiet excitement of the universe itself, not as thunder or fire, but as possibility. This is the first chapter in a story that will unfold over eons, each moment building upon the last, each photon a note in a symphony of creation. You feel a deep connection with this silent, primordial world. Your thoughts, like tiny molecules, drift toward the edge of comprehension. You are aware that something profound is taking shape, though it is still invisible, still delicate. There is a softness here, a gentle persistence that feels like a lullaby. You notice how light refracts through the shallow waters, creating tiny patterns of brilliance that dance and scatter. You imagine each pattern as a blueprint, each glimmer a seed. The earliest chemical reactions are shy and small, yet in their quiet unfolding, they carry the blueprint for everything to come. Cells, oceans, forests, creatures, and eventually, beings capable of observing the very process you now witness. You feel humbled by the patient ingenuity of nature, by the quiet insistence of energy transforming matter. As the morning unfolds, you notice the subtle ways sunlight penetrates different layers of water. Some molecules absorb and release energy in tiny flashes. Others rearrange themselves, forming the precursors to lipids, sugars, and the earliest building blocks of information storage. You feel the hum of potential vibrating beneath your awareness, a frequency so gentle that it almost feels like meditation. You notice how life, in this earliest sense, is not a thing but a process, an unfolding, a becoming. You realize that every photon carries both illumination and instruction, guiding the universe toward complexity with soft persistence. Time stretches endlessly, yet you feel the pull of progression. Molecules interact, energy flows, patterns stabilize. You watch as the first protocells might have formed, tiny, fragile bubbles of chemistry capable of isolating reactions within their boundaries. You imagine their trembling surfaces, reflecting the dawn light as they drift and multiply. You sense that each of these fragile beginnings is part of a larger story, a story that will span billions of years, culminating in forms that will one day look back and ponder their own origins. You feel privileged to be a witness to this whisper of creation. The sun rises higher now, yet its light remains gentle, nurturing without haste. You notice how the patterns within the water ripple outward, each disturbance carrying hints of order and repetition. You sense the elegance of simplicity giving rise to complexity, the quiet wisdom of the universe unfolding through small, patient acts. You feel a gentle pull, a question forming at the edge of thought. What other possibilities might these early reactions hold? It is a question without urgency, one that invites curiosity rather than demand. You feel the universe breathing around you, a slow exhale that hints at stories yet to unfold. And so, in the calm of early dawn, with photons dancing across water and molecules exploring their first tentative steps toward life, you remain a quiet witness. You feel the rhythm of creation echoing within you, a reflection of processes that have been unfolding since the beginning. The hum of possibility lingers, and the world feels on the cusp of discovery. Each ripple, each glimmer of light, carries a question into the next moments of existence, inviting you to continue this journey of awareness, curiosity, and gentle wonder. You drift through the deep, warm waters of an ancient world, long before the arrival of creatures that walk or swim. Here, the ocean feels endless and slow, a gentle cradle rocking you in currents that carry the memory of time itself. You notice the tiniest of shapes moving with purpose, yet without urgency. These are the cyanobacteria, ancient architects of life, floating in delicate, unassuming patterns. They are simple, yet profound, living threads woven into the tapestry of the planet. As you watch, each cell seems to catch a fragment of sunlight, bending it into a quiet brilliance. They shimmer with subtle cyan tones, like the softest glow at the edge of dawn. These tiny organisms are performing a miracle that is almost invisible, almost forgotten in the vastness around you. Each particle of light they trap is transformed into a pulse of life, fueling processes that will one day ripple outward into oceans, atmosphere, and even your own breath. You follow a single cell as it drifts lazily, turning with the currents. You notice how it absorbs sunlight in a way that feels rhythmic, like slow waves breaking on a distant shore. This is photosynthesis, but not as a diagram in a book, as a living, breathing dance. Carbon dioxide drifts into its interior, mingling with water and light, and out comes oxygen, released in soft bubbles that rise like tiny whispers toward the surface. Each bubble carries the first hints of an atmosphere that will one day support life in all its complexity. The water around you feels alive, filled with the slow, meditative heartbeat of countless cyanobacteria. Some move in clusters, shimmering like scattered gemstones, reflecting light across the gentle waves. Others float alone, quiet, contemplative, as if pondering the passage of eons. You imagine each cell as a tiny sun, a point of concentrated energy that reshapes the world simply by existing. In their patient work, the air above the ocean begins to change, filled with oxygen that will one day sustain creatures far more elaborate, far more aware. You sense the vast scale of their impact, though it is subtle. Millions of tiny organisms, each insignificant alone, collectively orchestrate a transformation that will echo through billions of years. You feel your own breath mingle with the rhythm of their life, understanding in a quiet, intimate way how connected everything is. The universe does not rush here. It moves in layers, in gentle folds, like the quiet turning of the oceans themselves. Below the surface, the cyanobacteria create microcosms of motion and light. Tiny currents form around their clusters, stirring nutrients and spreading life gently through the water. You watch as one cell splits in a silent, deliberate act, a doubling of energy, a soft multiplication of light. Each division is a heartbeat, a whisper in the infinite conversation of life. You can almost hear it, a faint resonance that threads through the water, slow, deliberate, endless. As the sun arcs higher, the water's surface catches glimmers of its reflection, dancing across the slow green motion below. You imagine the ocean as a living painting, every brushstroke rendered by countless invisible hands. Cyanobacteria become artists of light, sculpting oxygen into the water, shaping chemistry into possibilities. You sense the patient wisdom in this quiet work, the lesson that transformation need not be loud to be profound. The world is filled with layers of time here. You imagine billions of years stretching behind you, each moment like a drop of water in a vast river. These first green architects have seen the earth before it was fully awake, before the sky was blue and before the air was breathable. And yet, they move forward without hesitation, without knowledge of the worlds they will one day make possible. In their simplicity lies endurance, a quiet testament to the power of persistence. You float closer to a patch of water rich with these tiny suns. Their movement feels like a pulse beneath your skin, a reminder that life begins in forms too subtle to notice at first glance. Each cell absorbs light, transforms it, releases it, and repeats this gentle cycle. You watch for a long while, noticing the slow rise of oxygen bubbles, the tiny glimmers of green against the dark, infinite water. This is a rhythm older than you, more patient than time, yet intimately familiar in its quiet constancy. As the minutes pass, you notice patterns emerging, spirals, chains, clusters, tiny structures that form without intention, yet with perfect elegance. It is as though the ocean itself has whispered instructions, and the cyanobacteria have listened, responding in flowing, almost musical gestures. These patterns, seemingly simple, lay the groundwork for complex life. They are not conscious of the role they play, yet they embody it, like a poem written by light and water. The water feels warmer now, carrying with it the faint scent of minerals, the subtle hum of currents. You sense the larger picture, a planet slowly breathing, oceans transforming, skies preparing to change. The cyanobacteria are architects, not of stone or metal, but of air and possibility. They construct the very conditions for life that will one day walk, swim, and think upon this planet. You feel a connection to their work, a quiet gratitude for the patient shaping of worlds in ways unseen but fundamental. As you drift higher toward the surface, you notice the first subtle shimmer of reflection, the dance of sunlight with water and living cells. It feels like witnessing a secret ritual, timeless and profound. The slow, meditative rhythm of cyanobacteria becomes a lullaby of life, a soft whisper that suggests continuity, persistence, and hope. Each bubble rising to the surface carries the quiet proof of a process that is far larger than any single organism, a symphony composed by nature's most patient musicians. In this ancient ocean, you begin to understand the subtle power of small, persistent acts. Life here is gentle, patient, and deeply interconnected. The cyanobacteria remind you that transformation often occurs in silence, that vast consequences can arise from the smallest, simplest actions. You feel a sense of wonder, a soft, expanding calm that fills your mind like sunlight through water. And as you prepare to leave this luminous underwater world, your thoughts linger on the rising oxygen, the gentle rhythms, the countless tiny suns performing their quiet miracles. You realize that every breath you will take, every movement you will make, owes something to these ancient architects. They are the first to hold sunlight in their grasp, the first to shape a living world with subtle persistence. And somewhere, in the slow shimmer of the ocean, their work continues, unnoticed yet essential, leading naturally toward the next chapter of life's unfolding story. Imagine yourself on a quiet shore, long before human footsteps have pressed the sand. The sky is a muted swirl of colors, deeper blues and grays than you know today. There is no wind, no birdsong, only the gentle pulse of the planet, like a heartbeat beneath the surface. Beneath your feet, the crust of Earth is restless, simmering with heat and slowly sculpting continents that will one day drift apart in endless patience. Here, in this ancient calm, something remarkable begins to stir, not with noise or spectacle, but with subtle, persistent rhythm. You sense it first as a whisper, almost imperceptible. Tiny creatures in the ocean, invisible to the naked eye, perform a dance that will eventually remake the atmosphere. They are cyanobacteria, simple in form, yet monumental in effect. Each one absorbs sunlight with quiet reverence, splitting water molecules and releasing a gas that will change the world, oxygen. Not in bursts or storms, but as a steady, patient accumulation, like a soft breath that stretches across centuries. At first, the oxygen is almost shy. It drifts into the seas and mixes reluctantly with iron and other reactive elements, forming rust that slowly paints the seafloor in shades of red and brown. The oceans themselves transform into vast, glimmering laboratories where chemistry and biology entwine in slow, deliberate choreography. You float among the currents, observing the shimmer of minerals as they react to this new presence. Even here, there is no rush, time itself feels elastic, as if the planet is breathing alongside you. Then, gradually, the whispers grow. Oxygen begins to seep into the atmosphere, imperceptible at first, almost imagined. You notice the sky taking on new qualities, not dramatically, but subtly, like a melody that emerges from silence. Light scatters differently, painting the horizon in softer shades. This gas, unseen yet insistent, changes the rules of life. It is both gentle and demanding, inviting adaptation while quietly threatening what cannot endure it. Life responds with curiosity and patience. Organisms, small and unassuming, begin to experiment with this new world. Some retreat, seeking refuge in deep waters or protective niches where oxygen is scarce. Others rise, embracing the gift and finding new ways to harness its power. The earliest experiments of respiration occur here, tiny steps toward a profound transformation. You watch as cells open themselves to oxygen's embrace, taking in its energy, letting it fuel new possibilities. There is elegance in their trial and error, a quiet determination that mirrors your own slow, conscious breathing. The planet, too, is a student of change. Rocks and oceans, atmosphere and sky, interact in delicate feedbacks. Volcanoes continue to release their warmth, adding to the simmering energy of the crust. Clouds form in new patterns, guided by chemistry that you cannot yet fully predict. Rain carries minerals across the land, and the first hints of oxidative soils begin to appear. There is harmony here, not chaos, a subtle orchestration that unfolds over millennia. Every element seems to find its place, responding to oxygen's patient insistence. You feel the weight of time, immense and gentle. The great oxidation event is not a sudden cataclysm but a slow, unhurried transformation, measured in eons. It is a reminder that change does not always roar. Sometimes, it whispers, and the world listens. Mountains will rise, continents will drift, and yet this invisible gas will continue its quiet work, infiltrating every niche, every living cell. You sense that the earth itself is learning, adapting its rhythms to a new pattern of energy and life. With each passing millennium, oxygen accumulates. Its presence becomes undeniable, invisible yet pervasive. You imagine walking through a landscape where the air itself carries the promise of something different, something alive. The oceans shimmer with new chemistry, and creatures begin to explore the surface with greater freedom. Metabolic pathways unfold, intricate as lace, allowing life to harness energy with unprecedented efficiency. The slow pulse of photosynthesis now resonates through the planet, echoing in every current, every breeze, every drop of rain. And yet, there is tension in this quiet transformation. Oxygen is a paradox. It fuels life, yet it can burn it. It is gentle and insistent, a nurturing force that demands careful adaptation. Early life struggles, some forms faltering under its embrace. Yet the survivors are stronger, more versatile, more radiant in their simplicity. Evolution itself begins to explore paths it could not have taken before, pathways illuminated by the energy that oxygen provides. You feel this as a rhythm, a slow expansion of possibility, like watching a single note stretch into a symphony across ages. The colors of Earth respond to this change. The reds and browns of oxidized iron contrast with the deep blues of the oceans. Sunlight catches in the mineral-laden waves, scattering in new ways. You might imagine standing on a cliff in that primordial world, the horizon stretching endlessly, each glance revealing both permanence and flux. Every stone, every current, every particle of gas participates in a quiet dialogue, an exchange that will shape the surface and life itself. As oxygen settles into its role, new forms of life begin to imagine themselves differently. Cells group, collaborate, and specialize. The first multicellular organisms take shape, humble at first, delicate, yet resilient. They inherit a world that is richer in energy, more complex in chemical opportunity. They move through water with intent, sense their surroundings with delicate precision, and carry forward the momentum of a transformation that began long before they existed. You feel this unfolding as a gentle inevitability, as if the planet itself were whispering its own secret story. Night falls, and even here, time does not stop. The accumulation of oxygen is slow, measured, like a patient river winding through the landscape. Shadows lengthen over primordial continents, and the stars emerge overhead, reflecting in still waters. You sense the unity of the planet and sky, of chemistry and biology, of quiet breath and cosmic rhythm. It is an ecosystem of patience, teaching you that profound change often occurs in silence, in waiting, in persistent, gentle accumulation. You notice that the earth itself seems to exhale, a soft, continuous sigh carrying oxygen into the sky. The rhythm is unbroken, a meditation in motion, a quiet promise that the world is learning, evolving, and preparing for new forms of possibility. You, too, Feel the pulse, subtle, slow, reassuring, like your own heartbeat synced with the heartbeat of the planet. In this time, there is no rush, no drama, only a profound unfolding. The whispering breath of oxygen teaches patience, resilience, and the beauty of slow transformation. Life adapts, energy flows, and the earth becomes a teacher of subtle power. And as you drift through these eons, sensing the quiet miracle of change, you begin to understand that every breath, every flicker of energy, every ripple in the water is part of a story far larger than yourself, a story of slow, inevitable evolution. And somewhere in the distance, the first hints of something even greater stir, waiting for the next chapter to awaken its possibilities. You begin by noticing the sunlight as it falls softly across a green canopy, a quiet warmth that touches the edges of your senses. Each beam seems deliberate, a gentle invitation to pause, to feel. The leaves above sway slightly, as if acknowledging the touch of light, and in this motion, a story begins. You imagine the journey of a single photon, released from the distant sun, traveling through space for minutes, hours, perhaps longer, until it finds its resting place on a chlorophyll molecule within a leaf. This photon carries with it the energy of countless nuclear reactions, the deep power of fusion occurring in the sun's heart. When it reaches the leaf, it is neither hurried nor wasted, it is received with perfect timing. The leaf's surface, dotted with microscopic pores and veins, opens gently, absorbing the light and allowing it to settle. You sense the pulse of life here, small, yet infinitely patient, a quiet rhythm that does not rush. Inside the leaf, the photon's energy is transformed. Electrons awaken and leap along molecular chains, guided by delicate proteins that act like conductors of a symphony. You follow this dance with your mind, imagining the paths as luminous threads weaving through the leaf's interior. Each movement is precise, a choreography of energy transfer. Nothing is lost. The leaf does not hoard this gift, it reshapes it, storing it within the bonds of sugar molecules, a tangible form of sunlight that can feed life long after the original beam has faded. The process is gentle alchemy. Carbon dioxide drifts in from the air, combining with water absorbed from roots, forming glucose in a chemical embrace orchestrated by sunlight. You visualize each molecule, not as cold formulas, but as characters in a story. Oxygen sighs softly into the atmosphere, glucose rests patiently in the cells, waiting to nourish the plant, and in turn, nourish the creatures that rely on it. Energy circulates like a soft melody, invisible yet undeniable. As you observe, the rhythms of photosynthesis mirror the rhythms of your own breath. Inhale, exhale, and feel the exchange of gases around you. Leaves release oxygen in a gentle sigh, and you inhale it, becoming part of the cycle yourself. There is no separation here, no hierarchy, only a shared participation in the quiet miracle of transformation. Sunlight becomes life, life becomes movement, movement becomes sustenance. You notice the subtle elegance of balance, the leaf neither taking too much nor too little, every reaction measured with exquisite care. Your mind drifts to the veins within the leaf, delicate channels carrying water and nutrients. You imagine them like rivers of silver light, feeding every cell with what it needs. Energy flows along these pathways as if guided by an unseen hand, every step purposeful. The leaf is a tiny universe, each chloroplast a galaxy where light and matter converge. You sense the patience in these movements, the way chemical energy is stored for future needs, not squandered but gently reserved. Now, you explore the scale beyond the leaf. A tree stands rooted in the earth, sunlight captured in millions of leaves, energy stored in branches, trunks, and roots. You feel the weight of this accumulated power, yet it is not heavy. It is alive, vibrant, quietly pulsing through wood, sap, and bark. This energy sustains flowers, fruits, and seeds, extending the tree's life and the life of all who will partake of its bounty. Each photon that arrived months ago now resides in a fruit you might imagine, sweet and nourishing, a memory of light that traveled through space and time. You notice that this energy is never static. The sugar formed in the leaf travels through phloem channels, feeding growing buds, flowers, or even tiny roots exploring the soil. Life is a continuum, a network of transformation that never ceases. You feel the elegance of this process, the quiet efficiency, the poetry in every electron that leaps, every bond that forms. Nature has perfected a rhythm that hums softly beneath the surface of what we see. The soft hum continues even as you imagine the molecules returning to the air. Oxygen, a byproduct of photosynthesis, floats freely upward, joining the vast reservoir of atmosphere. You breathe in this oxygen and feel the connection, the tree's gentle gift mingling with your own life. Energy has changed form, yet continuity remains. Nothing is wasted. You sense a subtle music in this exchange, a lullaby that celebrates persistence, transformation, and the patient work of nature. As you continue to explore the leaf, you notice small details: the stomata opening and closing like tiny windows, guard cells flexing with delicate precision, the waxy surface reflecting sunlight in a gentle shimmer. Even in these tiny gestures, there is purpose and care. Every element has a role in maintaining the flow of energy. You imagine that if you could shrink yourself to the scale of a molecule, you would witness the dance of photons and electrons, a serene ballet that never ceases, quietly shaping life on Earth. The leaf is not isolated, it is part of a larger world. You feel the soil beneath, rich with decomposed matter, where energy returns and transforms again. Roots draw in water, minerals, and memories of sunlight captured by previous generations of plants. You imagine a hidden network of roots and fungi, exchanging nutrients and signals, a silent communication across the underworld. Every photon that fell on a leaf contributes to this unseen conversation, nourishing not only the tree but the interconnected web of life that surrounds it. Time seems to stretch as you drift alongside these processes. Hours, days, seasons pass in your mind's eye, and the sunlight's gentle touch continues to spark chemical reactions, storing energy patiently. You feel the slow heartbeat of photosynthesis, the rhythm that sustains forests, meadows, and even the tiniest moss on a rock. Each photon has a story, each sugar molecule a chapter, and together they write the ongoing narrative of life. You notice that in the quiet of this understanding, the beauty of simplicity emerges. A single leaf, a single photon, a single reaction, yet the impact is immense. Life depends on this transformation, yet it does not flaunt its power, it offers it with grace. You sense the elegance of balance, the assurance that even the smallest acts of energy conversion ripple outward, sustaining life far beyond what can be immediately seen. As your attention drifts to the broader sky, you feel a connection between the sun, the leaves, and yourself. You are part of this energetic flow, inhaling oxygen, feeling the warmth of sunlight, nourished by food that was once sunlight captured in a leaf. You realize the interwoven continuity, the gentle cycles that sustain life, the unending movement of energy from one form to another, quiet, patient, and eternal. And as night begins to fall in your imagination, the leaves continue to work, even in shadow, storing memories of daylight, conserving energy for the moments it will be needed. You sense a softness in this continuity, a lullaby of transformation that hums gently beneath the surface of existence. In this calm, meditative awareness, you carry the image of light becoming life, the slow alchemy of leaves, the endless flow that sustains all around you, a rhythm you can almost hear in the quiet of your own breath, a soft promise that energy never truly disappears, only changes, preparing you for the next chapter where energy begins to travel beyond the leaves, reaching the creatures and the world that rely upon it. You begin at the edge of perception, where the world dissolves into whispers of motion. Atoms drift like tiny celestial bodies, tracing paths invisible to the eye, yet each path carries intention. A hydrogen and an oxygen find each other across an expanse so small, yet in their meeting, a universe of possibility unfolds. They join and separate, weaving a rhythm that has no beginning and no end, only the quiet persistence of presence. You feel the pulse of their motion as if it were your own heartbeat, each flicker of energy a gentle tap against the walls of your awareness. The oxygen spins, the hydrogen leans, and together they form water, a liquid so familiar, yet so profound when seen in its earliest, most elemental gestures. You notice the grace in their union, the elegance in the forces that bind them. Nothing hurries, nothing lingers unnecessarily. It is all exact, yet effortless, a choreography that requires no conductor, only the subtle laws that hum beneath the surface of existence. Electrons flit along proteins, tracing patterns like fireflies caught in a gentle night breeze. They carry energy, they carry potential, yet they are dancers without ego, moving because movement is essential. You sense their tiny leaps, the transfer of energy that fuels the complex web of life, and in this, you see a reflection of your own thoughts, each one a spark, each one finding its place, illuminating the dark spaces of your mind. Glucose forms quietly, a sugar born from sunlight and water, and with it, life finds its sustenance. You watch the carbon atoms link, breaking and forming bonds, a silent song of possibility. Each bond is a note, each reaction a measure, composing a melody that underlies the living world. The energy released in this process travels along pathways unseen, yet you feel it in the calm settling through your chest, a reminder that motion, no matter how small, is never wasted. Chlorophyll in distant leaves absorbs photons, capturing light as if catching droplets of sunlight in cupped hands. You imagine the photons descending from the sky, racing across vast distances, and finally meeting the leaf with a gentle kiss. In this moment, the universe has conspired to deliver warmth and color to an infinitesimal patch of green. The energy transforms, electrons leap, and in this leap, life thrives. You feel yourself slowing, inhaling the rhythm of this invisible ballet, letting it seep into your bones. Inside every cell, mitochondria hum quietly, like tiny engines fine-tuned over eons. Protons cascade along membranes, a waterfall of precision, and you sense the energy being stored, ready to be released whenever needed. You watch ATP molecules form, their bonds snapping with controlled grace, fueling the work of every living process. It is mechanical, yes, yet intimate, an unseen intimacy with every breath, every thought, every heartbeat. You feel part of it, a silent witness to the elegance of life's machinery. The dance continues on the microscopic stage, where proteins fold like origami, each twist and turn purposeful. Enzymes guide reactions with gentle insistence, nudging molecules into shapes that unlock possibility. You see the elegance in their patient work, the quiet perseverance that never announces itself but always achieves. You feel a sense of awe, not the loud, overwhelming kind, but a soft, deep awe that expands quietly, like the stretching of light across water at dawn. In your mind, the molecules take on personalities, a carbon atom as a patient builder, an electron as a lively trickster, a proton as a steady guide. They move through pathways carved by chemistry and charts, yet every step is necessary. You follow them along the folds of a protein, through the loops of a membrane, past the wells of DNA, and you realize that this is a world of tiny narratives, interwoven and harmonized, forming a story that never ends. As glucose and oxygen meet in the mitochondria, you feel the elegance of combustion in slow motion. Electrons move through chains, protons surge across membranes, and energy is captured and stored. You sense the transformation, the way raw materials become usable power, not unlike how your own thoughts transform perception into understanding. You let yourself drift in this analogy, letting the molecular rhythm lull your mind into a quiet contemplation. Even the simplest reactions contain wonder. A water molecule splits, releasing oxygen and electrons. Sunlight energizes, enzymes guide, and life continues in a flow as smooth as a river's curve. You watch as the complexity arises from simplicity, as the intricate dance unfolds naturally, without oversight, yet perfectly synchronized. You sense a metaphor for your own existence. Small actions, small choices, tiny movements of energy can ripple outward, creating systems of astonishing beauty. In this quiet observation, time seems to stretch and bend. Seconds are no longer measured by clocks but by the heartbeat of molecules, by the gentle swaying of electrons and the steadfast persistence of bonds. You feel suspended in the middle of this choreography, neither participant nor distant observer, simply aware, breathing in sync with the silent rhythm of life itself. Your attention moves to the cell membrane, where nutrients and signals flow in and out like rivers of intention. Transport proteins open and close with discretion, gates in a city you cannot see but somehow understand. Ions cross, water moves, and chemical gradients balance delicately, a negotiation of forces, a whisper of agreement among countless particles. You sense the poetry in this quiet negotiation, the grace in the invisible hand that maintains life's delicate balance. DNA coils, twisting upon itself, storing instructions in loops and spirals. You imagine each base pair as a step in an infinite ladder, each twist a page in a manuscript of potential. The code is silent, yet it hums with possibility. You think of your own mind as an extension of this careful arrangement, a vessel for understanding, a recipient of the universe's quiet teachings. Every thought you nurture, every curiosity you follow, mirrors the molecular diligence you observe. The mitochondria, chloroplasts, ribosomes, they move in a gentle, purposeful harmony. You see cycles within cycles, reactions within reactions, a fractal of order arising naturally from chaos. There is no rush, no urgency, only the patient unfolding of complexity. You breathe with this rhythm, letting the calm of molecular life seep into the cadence of your own heartbeat. You sense the world not as a series of events but as an ongoing dance, a meditation expressed through matter and energy. You notice the electrons once again, flickering from molecule to molecule. Their journey is brief yet essential, a passage that powers everything from thought to movement. You feel the connection. What happens at the microscopic scale resonates outward, shaping the macroscopic, guiding the patterns of life in ways you can feel but cannot see. You close your eyes to better imagine it, letting the invisible choreography play across the inner screen of your mind. As the chapter draws toward its quiet conclusion, you linger in the awareness of interconnection. Atoms, molecules, reactions, all are part of a single, subtle rhythm. Each movement precise, each transfer purposeful, yet all flowing naturally, effortlessly, without force. You sense the elegance in the ordinary, the sacred in the minute, the infinite in the finite. Your thoughts soften, your mind slows, and in this stillness, you feel a gentle anticipation, the quiet curiosity for what lies beyond this molecular dance. And as you settle into this reverie, the question arises softly, almost imperceptibly: how do these tiny rhythms ripple outward, shaping the living world in ways both gentle and profound, guiding the pulse of life itself toward something yet unseen? You walk slowly through a forest of light, where sunlight threads itself delicately through the branches, scattering golden patterns across the soft earth beneath your feet. Each leaf above you catches a fragment of that light, folding it into its veins with quiet diligence, a small miracle happening in silence. You notice the variety: broad leaves that stretch like open hands, narrow ones that slice the air, textured surfaces that shimmer with dew. There is a language here, a communication that predates human words. Fossils embedded in stone remind you that the leaves you see are not new, they are echoes of countless seasons, of trees that lived long before the first human steps. You imagine ancient skies, hazy and orange with the light of distant suns, and the gentle sway of prehistoric leaves, each one reaching toward the warmth that promised life. These remnants whisper to you of adaptation, survival, and the patient art of existing in harmony with the world around them. You breathe in slowly, letting the weight of this time settle softly in your mind. Within each leaf, chloroplasts, tiny green factories, catch photons and transform them into energy. This process, photosynthesis, hums quietly in every cell, a gentle rhythm like a heartbeat you can almost hear if you listen carefully. You sense the invisible flow of sunlight converting into sugar, nourishing not just the leaf, but the tree, the forest, and all life that leans upon it. You marvel at how something so delicate can sustain so much life, how something seemingly small holds the memory of the sun itself. You run your fingers across a leaf, feeling the ridges and veins beneath your touch. Each vein is a pathway, a map of nutrients and water, a reminder that structure carries meaning. Evolution has carved these patterns with care over millions of years, balancing strength with flexibility. Some leaves are smooth and thin, catching every drop of rain and sun. Others are thick and waxy, resisting the harshness of wind and drought. In their forms, you read a history of challenges met and overcome, of environments navigated with quiet precision. As your gaze drifts downward, you notice leaves that have fallen, their edges curled and colors muted by time. They lie upon the soil like letters pressed into a book, each one returning to the earth it once fed. Decomposition begins slowly, breaking down fibers and releasing nutrients back into the world. You realize that leaves are not merely passive, they are participants in a cycle that flows endlessly, where death becomes a gentle promise of new life. The rustle of these fallen leaves under your feet is a soft percussion, a lullaby that guides your steps and your thoughts deeper into contemplation. You find a leaf preserved in amber, its veins frozen in a golden glow. It is a tiny archive, a capsule of sunlight and air from ages past. You imagine the tree it came from, standing tall in a forest long gone, leaves reaching out like green flames. The amber preserves more than shape, it preserves possibility, a record of what life could endure. Holding it, you feel connected to the patience of nature, to the slow accumulation of knowledge embedded in every living form. A gentle wind stirs the canopy above. Leaves tremble and sway, a soft chorus answering the invisible song of the air. You close your eyes and listen, letting each movement become a story. Some leaves twist to catch more light, others fall to protect themselves. You recognize intention without consciousness, a dance choreographed by evolution itself. It is a reminder that intelligence need not speak in words to be understood, that survival can be expressed through form, function, and responsiveness. Beneath this canopy, sunlight filters unevenly, creating patches of warmth and shadow. You notice how leaves orient themselves differently depending on the light, turning, tilting, leaning toward illumination. There is a patience in this movement, an unhurried grace. You realize that the energy captured in each leaf does not belong solely to the tree, it is shared with the soil, with insects, with animals that rely on shade or nourishment. The leaf is both individual and community, a quiet node in the interconnected web of life. You bend closer to inspect a fern, its fronds unfolding in spirals that echo the Fibonacci patterns of the universe. Each leaflet is a miniature mirror of the whole, repeating shapes in smaller and smaller scales. You sense a harmony here, a mathematical poetry that feels organic rather than imposed. The fern is both familiar and strange, a reminder that nature often works in patterns that are subtle yet persistent, guiding the growth of form and function with an invisible hand. Droplets of water cling to the edges of a leaf, reflecting the world upside down in tiny orbs. You watch the droplets quiver and slide, understanding that even the smallest movements are part of a larger rhythm. The water nourishes, the leaf feeds, the sun energizes, and together they compose a quiet, unbroken melody. You are part of this melody too, stepping softly, breathing slowly, feeling the connection between your presence and the gentle unfolding of life around you. As the day deepens into twilight, the light shifts, and the leaves shimmer with a cooler, softer glow. You notice the transition not only in color but in sensation. Shadows lengthen, the air grows fragrant with earth and growth, and you feel a gentle invitation to rest. Leaves, in their quiet, unassuming way, have been your guides, teaching you about resilience, patience, and the slow accumulation of knowledge through observation and care. They carry the histories of sunlight, rain, wind, and time, and now, through your mindful presence, they also carry your reflection. You step onto a carpet of fallen leaves, letting them crunch gently beneath your feet. Each sound is a punctuation, a reminder that even endings contain beauty. You pause to let the scene settle in your mind, a meditation on the simplicity and complexity entwined in a single leaf. You feel gratitude for the stories whispered in veins and edges, for the invisible energy circulating through life, and for the quiet patience of evolution that shaped every form you have seen today. And as the first stars appear above the treetops, faint and deliberate, you realize that leaves are more than leaves, they are vessels of memory, light, and life. They will continue to whisper long after you have walked away, and in their rustle, you sense the gentle promise of discovery waiting in the next chapter of nature's endless story. You walk slowly along a shore where the ocean's edge meets the silent land. In the shallow water, a ripple of green moves gently, algae drifting like tiny whispers of a forgotten song. They shimmer under sunlight, delicate and unassuming, yet within them hums a power older than the rocks beneath your feet. This power is photosynthesis, a quiet alchemy transforming sunlight into life. Every beam that kisses these ancient green forms becomes the first pulse of energy for a world yet to awaken on land. Imagine these early plants, not yet rooted in soil, floating in tides. They dance with the water's rhythm, stretching tiny filaments toward warmth, toward light. You feel your own breath synchronize with this slow, careful movement, inhaling as they grow, exhaling as the light spills across your skin. Each cell becomes a lantern, capturing photons and turning them into sustenance, a luminous transformation that will one day feed creatures beyond their imagination. Time flows differently here. You notice how the first colonizers of land move in geological patience. Mosses, liverworts, and algae pioneer the rocky edges, their tiny bodies clinging to surfaces, their roots tenderly probing for moisture. Each fragment of green is a meditation on persistence. You can almost hear the soft sigh of the earth welcoming them, the soil inhaling their presence, preparing itself for the intricate dance that life will continue for millions of years. Picture a barren landscape, cracked stone, dust drifting in lazy spirals, the sun warming the earth without resistance. And then, over the course of countless days and nights, the first blush of green appears. Small cushions of moss catch the morning dew. Liverworts flatten themselves against stone, tracing the contours of an unfeeling surface, softening it with their quiet growth. It is a slow painting of life, stroke by deliberate stroke. You watch it unfold and feel your own sense of time stretch, becoming as expansive as the landscape itself. There is water everywhere and nowhere. Moisture from the air gathers in invisible threads, binding these pioneering plants to existence. You feel the delicate tension of survival, the intimate relationship between humidity and leaf. These are the moments that feel like breathing, slow, necessary, and gentle. As photosynthesis pulses within these first land plants, they exhale oxygen into the world, an invisible gift that begins to accumulate in the atmosphere, whispering promises of future forests, fields, and gardens. Notice the light, how it bends through thin green leaves, how it filters across their surfaces and reflects onto soil. You understand that this is more than illumination, it is information, an energetic conversation between the sun and the nascent biosphere. Each photon absorbed triggers a reaction older than time itself, splitting water, forming sugar, giving rise to life that is simultaneously humble and monumental. You feel a connection between your own heartbeat and this process, a rhythm that echoes across eons. Rivers and lakes become classrooms of slow invention. Cyanobacteria form mats that glimmer like tiny constellations under shallow water. They secrete substances that bind soil particles together, softening the hard edges of newly exposed land. You can feel the patient engineering of life, the quiet ways in which it builds not for spectacle, but for survival and continuity. This is the meditative power of living systems, and you are a witness to its first gestures. Step onto the land itself, where the first roots press into stone. They do not grasp like hands seeking control but caress the surface, exploring, learning. These roots release tiny acids, a slow alchemy that breaks rock into soil, a transformation imperceptible to the hurried eye but monumental to the planet's unfolding story. Each grain of newly formed soil is a silent testament to resilience, the patient work of green pioneers, the first whispers of an ecosystem yet to come. The air itself begins to change. Oxygen rises in quiet abundance, invisible yet essential. You inhale and taste it as a fresh invitation, a breath of something new, a possibility. These early plants, fragile and unassuming, are crafting the atmosphere, quietly altering chemistry to make the world habitable for life yet to emerge. It is a reminder that even the smallest acts can ripple across eons, that quiet persistence can reshape existence itself. Imagine the interplay of light and shadow as small plants stretch toward the sky. Sunlight warms one leaf and cools another, creating patterns that flicker like memories across rock and soil. You can almost hear the gentle pulse of the ecosystem, photosynthesis sending its rhythm through each cell, oxygen exhaling into the air, moisture flowing through tender roots. Everything moves in a slow, deliberate cadence, a meditation on growth and adaptation. Notice how each new green form alters its surroundings. Where moss carpets the stone, moisture lingers longer, creating pockets where tiny invertebrates might later wander. Each plant shapes the world for others, setting the stage for complex interactions that will, millions of years later, produce vast forests and flourishing plains. You feel the interconnectedness of it all, the subtle weave of cause and effect, the way a single leaf can influence the slow unfolding of the Earth's history. The sun continues its arc, bathing the landscape in warmth. You walk among the first green breaths of life, feeling the soft persistence of existence beneath your feet. Every delicate frond, every clinging root, is an invitation to witness patience, to understand the long, meditative story of life extending from oceans to land. You imagine the winds carrying spores and seeds, the rain washing nutrients into tender soil, and the world itself breathing in rhythm with the growth of life. You pause at a tiny stream, where water trickles over stones softened by moss. Here, you sense the earliest dialogues between land and water, between plant and sun, between existence and potential. Each molecule, each photon, participates in this quiet symphony. You understand, in a way that feels personal, that this is the planet's first deep inhale, the subtle exhale that will one day fill the atmosphere with oxygen and possibility. And so life continues, slow, deliberate, and unassuming. From ocean-bound algae to mosses on stone, the first green whispers persist against barren landscapes, transforming emptiness into sanctuary. You feel the rhythm of this unfolding, a soft meditation on endurance, light, and connection. The land becomes alive, not all at once, but in patient increments, each moment a brushstroke in a painting that stretches across millennia. You step back and see the green slowly spreading, the land softening, the air thickening with the promise of more life. There is no rush, only quiet growth, only the patient unfolding of possibility. And as the sun dips low, casting long, gentle shadows, you sense the land preparing for what comes next. Larger plants, forests, and the subtle rise of ecosystems that will one day teem with creatures of all kinds. You linger in this meditative space, feeling the gentle connection between light, water, and the first breaths of green life, knowing that the story is only beginning. The quiet of the land invites you to rest, to notice, to become part of the slow, deliberate rhythm of existence. And in this stillness, you sense the next step, a question waiting just beyond the horizon of moss and stone, whispering of forests yet to grow, and the life that will follow them. You begin with the sunlight, a warm touch on your skin, a quiet whisper across the meadow. It drifts lazily through the morning sky, folding itself into each leaf it kisses, and you can almost feel the photons as they tangle with the green, shimmering surfaces. These photons are not just light, they are carriers of energy, tiny messengers traveling vast distances, landing softly, and surrendering their warmth to the world below. You follow them as they reach the delicate veins of leaves, tracing the gentle process of photosynthesis, where sunlight becomes sugar, stored patiently, silently, for the life that will come. Beneath your feet, the soil hums softly. It is not empty or inert. Every grain is a home, a repository of minerals, a reservoir of water, a cradle for unseen roots. These roots stretch outward and downward, tender yet unyielding, capturing the sugars produced above and anchoring the plants in the earth. You notice how the energy from sunlight is now intertwined with water and mineral whispers, forming a quiet symphony of sustenance. Each blade of grass, each fern, each towering tree becomes a vessel, moving energy in ways that feel almost like breathing. A small insect skitters across the forest floor. It pauses on a leaf, tasting the sugar that the sun has so kindly provided. You follow its movements, imagining the transfer of energy, from photon to plant, from plant to insect. Life here is a delicate rhythm, an exchange so seamless that it feels like the forest itself is breathing. Energy is not taken in haste but shared with gentle care, flowing from one organism to another, a soft pulse that sustains the web of life. You can almost hear it as a quiet heartbeat, a subtle thrum that connects leaf, soil, insect, and bird. A bird swoops down to peck at a berry. Its feathers shimmer in the sunlight, catching small reflections of the world above. You follow the bird's journey, and in this moment, you feel the cascade of energy. The sun's photons became sugar in the berry, which now becomes fuel for flight, for song, for life. It is a meditation in movement, an endless loop where energy flows with grace, never wasted, always transformed. Every bite, every flutter of wings, every step upon the forest floor is part of this continuum, and you feel yourself settling into its rhythm. The forest is alive with quiet exchanges. Roots whisper below, fungi weave intricate networks of connection, trees communicate through chemical signals, and every creature participates in this flow. You wander slowly, noticing the delicate balance, how a fallen leaf nourishes the soil, how decomposing matter becomes the building blocks of tomorrow's growth. Energy is not a force to be captured but a dance to join. You imagine yourself as part of it, tracing the invisible lines that connect sunlight to soil, leaf to insect, insect to bird, bird to air. The flow is gentle yet constant, a reminder that life is sustained through simple acts of giving and receiving. You pause beside a stream. Water carries energy too, not only the sunlight reflected in its ripples but the warmth of stones and the movement of nutrients. Tiny microorganisms drift within it, catching fragments of light and food, continuing the unbroken sequence of energy transfer. You listen to the soft murmur of the current and feel how energy moves invisibly through it, connecting land and water, living and non-living. Each droplet participates in the rhythm, joining in the meditative cycle that underpins all ecosystems. A deer steps cautiously from the tree line, its breath visible in the cool air. You watch it graze, and in this act, you witness energy moving upward through the food chain. The sugars created by leaves now nourish a large body, allowing movement, thought, survival. Predators and scavengers also partake in this cycle, not as destruction, but as continuation. Life sustains life in a soft, intricate balance, and you recognize the gentle poetry of it all. The deer moves with quiet purpose, its every step a testament to the energy that began in the sun, passed through leaf and root, and now carries through muscle and bone. The sunlight wanes, and shadows stretch across the forest. Yet energy does not cease, it transforms. Leaves close gently, animals settle, and the ecosystem rests, storing what has been gained and preparing for the next day. You feel a calm certainty in this rhythm. Each particle of energy is accounted for in the grand design, never lost, only transformed. Your mind drifts with it, following the cascade from daylight into dusk, from leaf to creature, from moment to moment. You observe the subtle interactions that often go unnoticed. A beetle drills into bark, turning decay into nourishment. Birds call softly to one another, signaling the presence of food or danger. Tiny fungi decompose fallen wood, releasing nutrients for roots below. In every action, energy flows, a constant, gentle movement that shapes the forest quietly yet profoundly. You imagine following these lines like threads, weaving a tapestry of interconnection, each element dependent on the others, each moment feeding the next. Night falls, and the forest glows under the moon's soft light. Energy now is stored, waiting to rise again with the morning sun. You feel the pulse in your own chest, echoing the rhythm you have witnessed. The universe is generous in its cycles, patient in its flows, infinite in its capacity to sustain life. Every organism participates, consciously or unconsciously, in this meditation of energy. You sense that life itself is a quiet poem, written in photons, sugars, water, and the movement of creatures large and small. You notice how each breath you take is connected to this energy flow. Oxygen exchanged, carbon returned, nutrients absorbed. Your body mirrors the forest in its cycles. The energy that reached the leaf now courses through you in a different form, and you are part of the same gentle cascade. You feel a serene gratitude for the unseen threads that connect you to sun, soil, leaf, insect, bird, and deer. The meditative rhythm of life feels like a lullaby, a soft reassurance that all is flowing, all is connected, all is sustained. As you lie back beneath the canopy of leaves, you realize that this energy is a gift, unending and patient. It flows through every living thing, a quiet pulse that carries the story of the sun, the soil, and the creatures that call this world home. You close your eyes and let your mind follow the gentle movement, photons to leaf, leaf to creature, creature to air, air to soil, soil to root, root to leaf again. It is an endless, calming repetition, a meditation you can carry within you wherever you go. And as the night deepens, the forest rests, but the pulse continues, softly, invisibly, and ever ready to awaken with the next dawn, carrying life onward in its gentle, unbroken rhythm. You close your eyes, and the world softens. The day's noise drifts into the background, and what remains is the quiet rhythm of your breath. Each inhale feels like a small tide rolling in, each exhale like a gentle tide rolling out. And as your body finds its stillness, your mind begins to wander inward, toward a story that is not about rushing, but about waiting. Not about battles, but about companionship. In the hush of your inner vision, you picture a time so far back that even memory cannot stretch to reach it. A world before trees, before flowers, before even the soft mats of moss that now decorate stones. The earth then was young, and life was simple, just drifting shapes in the water, tiny and unhurried. They moved, not with legs or wings, but with quiet currents, like dust motes suspended in sunlight. Among these drifting forms were two kinds of beings. One was larger, more spacious, like a hollow vessel of possibility. The other was smaller, more focused, carrying with it a secret, the power to capture sunlight and turn it into nourishment. Alone, each was limited. The larger cell had space but no light harvesting gift. The smaller cell had energy, but it was fragile, easily consumed. And then, in a moment that would change the course of every leaf, every forest, every breath you now take, they came together. Not through force, but through the quiet patience of coexistence. One cell allowed the other to remain inside. What could have been a fleeting encounter became something lasting. The small photosynthetic cell found safety within, and the larger host found a steady stream of energy. Together, they created something neither could have been alone. You feel this story in your own breath. Inhale, a gift drawn from green leaves. Exhale, a gift returned, invisible, offered back to the air. You realize that every breath is a quiet remembrance of that ancient pact. This is the story of chloroplasts, the emerald engines inside plant cells that transform sunlight, carbon, and water into food. But their story is also your story, because without them, you would not be here. Every apple you taste, every grain of rice, every breath of oxygen is a gentle echo of that first partnership. You imagine the scene, not as harsh survival, but as a slow negotiation. Evolution is often described as competition, but here it feels like trust. Like two hands finding each other in the dark, holding on, realizing they are stronger together. Chloroplasts are not invaders, not captives. They are guests who became family, threads woven so tightly into the fabric of life that you cannot pull them out without unraveling the whole design. As you linger in this thought, your mind drifts like sunlight through leaves. You picture the color green, deep, alive, luminous. Green as a whisper of growth, green as a quiet hymn sung by forests, green as the soft reassurance that life endures. That shade exists inside every plant cell because of those ancient guests, now inseparable from their hosts. You walk slowly through an imagined forest in your mind. Each leaf that shivers in the breeze is a page of the same ancient story. Chloroplasts turn sunlight into sugar, and sugar into growth, and growth into shelter and nourishment for countless other lives. The birds that perch on branches, the insects that sip nectar, even the soil enriched by fallen leaves, all of it is tied back to those tiny green organelles, patiently working, moment by moment, in quiet devotion. The forest itself feels like a breath made visible. Trees inhale sunlight and exhale oxygen, filling the world with a substance you now draw effortlessly into your lungs. You realize that you, too, are a participant in this endless exchange. With every inhale, you join in the conversation that began over 1 billion years ago, when two cells decided to share life. The thought softens you. You are not separate from nature, not a lonely being observing from the outside. You are threaded into the same pattern, connected by each breath, each meal, each heartbeat. The science becomes a lullaby. Chloroplasts contain their own DNA, a memory of the time when they were free-living organisms. They still whisper fragments of their independence, carrying the traces of another life. And yet, they are devoted now, folded into the rhythm of their host cells, no longer wandering but rooted in belonging. You pause with this idea, that even independence can become intimacy. That even separation can turn into union. Perhaps your own life, too, is shaped by unseen partnerships, subtle and patient, where trust replaces fear, and togetherness becomes a form of strength. In the stillness, you feel that lessons settle within you like soft moss on stone. The story of chloroplasts is not a tale of conquest. It is a tale of listening, of allowing, of finding enough safety to remain. It is the kind of story you can only hear when the world is quiet, like now, when night gathers around you and the only rhythm is your breath. You linger on the image of sunlight entering a leaf. It does not rush. It does not demand. It simply arrives, steady and generous. Inside the leaf, chloroplasts welcome it, and through invisible transformations, light becomes nourishment. Light becomes sweetness. Light becomes the possibility of growth. You, too, receive light in your own way, not through chloroplasts, but through moments of kindness, through the warmth of connection, through the gentle radiance of curiosity. You turn those into energy, into ideas, into life lived. And so, as you drift in this thought, you sense that the story is not finished. Chloroplasts were only one chapter in the larger tale of symbiosis, of togetherness. For if these cells could form a union that changed the planet, what other unions might exist within you? What other companions, unseen, dwell in the spaces of your body, shaping you as gently, as quietly, as those green organelles shape the forests? You breathe again, slow and steady, and the question hums softly in the distance. You breathe in, slowly. The air enters your lungs, cool and quiet, like a river slipping between stones. What you do not see is the story carried on each invisible molecule, oxygen, a gift from the leaves, drifting through time, through space, into your very being. It is the planet's exhale, arriving at your lips, your chest, your blood, whispering, "You belong here." Every breath you take is an exchange, a silent dialogue between your body and the green world. You release carbon dioxide, a thread of yourself woven outward. And in response, the plants answer. They take what you give, and with sunlight, they weave it into sugar, into structure, into life. This reciprocity, this quiet offering and receiving, is photosynthesis. It is not only a process in cells, it is a heartbeat for the planet. Imagine, now, a forest at dawn. The first strands of sunlight fall across leaves still damp with dew. In those fragile drops of water, photons strike, setting off a cascade of events more intricate than any symphony. The leaf begins to stir, capturing light, splitting water, releasing oxygen, its breath meeting your own. This is photosynthesis unfolding, moment by moment, across billions of green surfaces. It is as though the earth itself is inhaling and exhaling, in rhythm with you. The word photo means light. The word synthesis means putting together. And that is what happens. Light is gathered, stitched into chemical bonds, stored as energy that flows onward into roots, stems, fruits, bodies, and futures. Every apple, every grain of rice, every seed is a memory of sunlight, preserved for the journey of life. When you eat, you are eating sunlight transformed, softened, and passed along through chlorophyll's emerald hands. The food in your body right now is sunlight remembered. Close your eyes and picture a single chloroplast, the tiny green organelle within a leaf's cells. It is like a jewel, holding pigments that reach outward for light. Inside, a chain of reactions unfolds with patient precision. Photons strike, electrons leap, hydrogen is moved, oxygen is set free. This is not chaos, it is choreography. Each step follows the next with quiet inevitability, like footsteps along a winding forest path. Water is split apart. The hydrogen stays, woven into energy molecules. The oxygen drifts away, released, rising through stomata, the tiny mouths of leaves, to mix with the sky. And that oxygen, by chance, finds its way into your lungs tonight. The plant and you are bound together in this invisible embrace. The sugars formed by photosynthesis are not just fuel. They are building blocks, threads for weaving the tapestry of life. A sapling grows taller because of them. Roots push deeper because of them. Flowers bloom, fruits ripen, seeds harden, all from this quiet alchemy. And so, the forest grows, the grasses spread, the algae and oceans multiply, each leaf and blade contributing to the breath of the planet. Pause for a moment and think of the oceans. It is not only trees and grasses that make oxygen. Tiny drifting phytoplankton, fragile as dust, fill the waters with photosynthesis too. They shimmer just beneath the waves, turning sunlight into sustenance, shaping the chemistry of the seas and skies. Half of the oxygen you breathe comes from them, tiny creatures, unseen, yet utterly essential. When you stand by the shore and breathe in the salt air, part of that breath belongs to them. In this way, photosynthesis is not just a local act. It is planetary. It links deserts with forests, rivers with oceans, your breath with the breath of whales, eagles, beetles, and mosses. It is the quiet current beneath everything, the pulse that allows life to rise, to bloom, to endure. And yet, it is delicate. Photosynthesis requires balance: water, light, carbon dioxide, and temperature in harmony. Too much heat, too little water, too much carbon, and the rhythm stumbles. The dance falters. Still, the green world persists, adapting, bending, finding ways to keep its pulse alive. It has done so for billions of years. The air you breathe tonight carries echoes from ancient forests, primeval oceans, and leaves long turned to stone. Think of it: the earth was once barren, air thick with gases inhospitable to creatures like you. But photosynthesis changed that. Slowly, patiently, it filled the sky with oxygen, reshaping the atmosphere, allowing animals to emerge, to move, to dream. Without it, no wings, no songs, no stories. Without it, no you. And so you rest tonight on a planet shaped by leaves, by sunlight, by patience. Every blade of grass under your feet, every forest path, every breath is a reminder of that transformation. When you breathe, you are not only alive, you are participating in an ancient partnership, a trust carried across eons. You may wonder, why is this important to remember as you drift into sleep? Because it reminds you that you are never separate. Even in solitude, your breath is connected to oceans, forests, and skies. Your life is intertwined with the lives of countless others: plants, animals, even unseen plankton, all bound by the pulse of photosynthesis. This truth is both humbling and comforting. As you listen, allow your thoughts to slow. Picture yourself lying beneath a great tree, its canopy breathing above you. Each leaf inhales sunlight and exhales oxygen, and you rest within that rhythm. Your chest rises and falls with the same cadence. The line between you and the tree blurs, until you feel yourself as part of the same great breathing body. The night deepens, and you sense gratitude welling quietly within you. Gratitude for sunlight, for leaves, for oceans and their drifting plankton, for the unseen labor of cells weaving light into life. This gratitude does not need words, it is simply felt, like warmth in the chest, like stillness in the mind. Let yourself sink deeper now. Feel the rhythm of breath, slow and calm. Inhale the memory of forests. Exhale your offering, your carbon, your thread back to the earth. The exchange continues, patient and eternal, as though the planet itself cradles you. The story of photosynthesis is not finished. It continues every moment, in every leaf, in every drop of water touched by light. It will continue tomorrow, when the sun rises again, painting the horizon in gold. And it will continue beyond you, carrying forward the pulse of life for generations yet to come. But tonight, you do not need to think of tomorrow. You only need to rest in the knowledge that you are part of this rhythm, always. Photosynthesis does not demand anything of you. It offers itself freely, endlessly, so that you may breathe, so that you may dream. You close your eyes. The world softens. The pulse of photosynthesis surrounds you, a lullaby sung in green, in light, in air. You drift within it, safe, connected, whole. And somewhere, in the quiet space between breath and thought, you wonder, what other hidden rhythms of the universe are still waiting to be heard?